Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to welcome you to this episode on the Conscious Awakening Network. Now, I want you guys to check out our new website. We are just this close to officially launching it again. So you guys are just getting our little sneak peek back there. So check us out at the consciousawakeningnetwork.org. Sign up to be on our mailing list. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. Now, I am super excited to have back with us Samuel Chong. And I first want to congratulate him because he has now become a licensed California lawyer. And he also recently went to India and met with the Dalai Lama. So that sounds like an amazing time. Maybe you'll share a little bit about that. And tonight he's going to talk with us about the Thiaoouba Prophecies. These are this is a book that was written by Michel Desmarquet, and Mr. Desmarquet has passed, but Samuel has been sharing this phenomenal book, and he was on, I think, maybe last fall, and I'm super excited to have him back because one of the things I learned, you're supposed to read that book 3 times. Now, in my second round, I'll have that finished, and then I'm going to listen to the book on tape as I drive back across the country. So I'm super excited to hear that because this book it's not just about extraterrestrials, but it's also jam-packed full of information like the reason that the pyramids were constructed and how they were built, and the real reason behind many of the mysterious disappearances that have happened in the Bermuda Triangle. And so there is so much to share with you about this book. It's not just a book, it is absolutely, it's phenomenal. But I'm going to let Samuel talk about that in just a moment. I want to go ahead and share screen with you because if you guys will remember from last week, we are right in the process of getting ready for our first major event of the year, and that is the Star Codes activation. Now you can see we have all kinds of phenomenal speakers, and I am so excited to have them on. So if you have not already signed up, please do so, consciousawakeningnetwork.org. It is only $44 for both days. So that is a phenomenal deal. And I think that everyone will really enjoy it. You know, as all the energies on this planet are changing, it's really more important than ever for all of us to really stay up and activated. And there's going to be activations after activations after activations. So check it out, consciousawakeningnetwork.org. So now it is my honor and privilege to bring Samuel up. Hey, Samuel, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me again, Sheila.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. I want to hear all about your exciting adventures. And again, congratulations on passing the bar exam. That's no small feat in and of itself. And I was joking with him. I'm like, oh, good. Now, if I need an attorney, I know one that I can call. So I'm so glad that you have done that. And you want to start out and tell people a little bit about yourself and maybe just a little bit about your visit with the Dalai Lama, and then we can start moving into the prophecies.
Yes, I was born in Beijing, China in 1978. I was very curious since I was young. I was curious about the near-death experiences, the ET visits as reported by the UFO magazines in China, because I thought if the ETs could come and visit us, they must have advanced technologies and knowledge. We can just learn from them, so to progress at a much faster pace. I couldn't find additional information because, um, Chinese media didn't give out a source. After I came to the US, I was able to research and read a lot of more books on this matter or subject matter. And one day in 2014, I was searching on Amazon. I found this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. Back then, it was called abduction to the next planet. And that really opened my eyes. And before I was working as a certified court interpreter, mostly working with lawyers and doctors, so I needed proof. And this book
Oh, yeah.
provides a lot of proof. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it is absolutely, I mean, it's fascinating the information that's in there. And I was lucky to find a few of Michel's interviews on YouTube, and that was super interesting too. But I really want to hear more, if you'll share more about the prophecies with people, because I really think this is the time for people to know about this information.
Yes, the book not only solves all the mysteries of the paranormal phenomena, but also gives out specific suggestions to us, to people on Earth, how they can have better lives, how they can really find their happiness and ultimate goals in life. So I think this book has a lot of practical value to the people who live in the real world, as well as people in the spiritual communities. So to provide specific verifiable facts so that they can really do additional research on their own. So this book is very unique in the sense that it bridges science and spirituality.
Oh, yeah. And, as I said, I found a couple of his interviews and I had to look it up because me being me, it was like, I don't know. I started reading it. It's like, this sounds so good. And then I watched a couple and it was like, wow, this guy is so down to earth. And he was given such phenomenal information. Sometimes, um, when you hear these stories, they sound so fantastical. And, I shouldn't doubt anything. And I really don't. I'm open to everything. But kind of like you, I kind of want to make sure that it's on solid foundation. And this is such a phenomenal book. But I'll be quiet. Let me let you talk.
Yes. So this book actually emphasizes the importance of being spiritual for people on Earth because we are here to have a spiritual experience and to learn spiritual lessons. Remember, like when we were born here, we didn't bring any material objects here. We're all born without any clothes, any objects, just ourselves, our physical body, and our astral body or spiritual body. When we die, the same thing happens. We don't take away any material objects. Napoleon, even though he conquered a vast territory, and also people like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, they accumulated a lot of wealth. But when they die, they cannot take away any material wealth when they accumulate it. So I did a lot of research on people who have had near-death experiences. They all emphasize on love and compassion and the relationship that the people that they met in their lives. So this book actually reviews a lot of the information that relating to what happens after we die and what happens in our past lives. Actually, Michel Desmarquet was taken to his 80 past lives and saw what kind of roles that he played before. And this book also provides a lot of specific, verifiable, useful facts for the readers. For example, it emphasizes on the importance of colors because colors are different vibrations. And it talks about how Michel Desmarquet was disinfected when he entered into their spacecraft using yellow light and blue light. It turns out that Harvard Medical School had a research paper that shows that blue light has antibacterial effects. The paper was only published like a few years ago, but this book was written about 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yes. And in addition to that, it gives a lot of very specific facts for people to live their lives to the fullest extent and to really fulfill their missions and objects in their lives. So they suggest people to really focus on the gut feelings and also the inner self because we are part of the creator, and the creator is part of us. So we can actually connect to the source, the creator, directly without using an intermediary agency like a religion or a pastor in a church or like a monk in a temple. We can actually concentrate and meditate or pray or just have a good night of sleep to communicate to our higher self, which is part of the creator, so that we can be given directions in life that can help us to grow spiritually. That means if the solutions are good for our spiritual development, they will be provided to us. So it actually encourages people to be spiritual, but not to follow a specific religion. Actually, religion is one of the four curses or real dangers on earth, in addition to money, politicians, journalists, and drugs. And I think this book nails the point that everyone knows.
Right. I found it very fascinating how he was in his home, and then when he went outside and was taken up into the craft, he had no forewarning. But I think, like many of us, he was just like, whoa, check this out. I think that a lot of us are at that point that if we were taken on a craft, that we were in real time, like he was, that a lot of us would be excited. So I was really kind of enthralled with his entire response. It seemed there was no fear whatsoever. And of course, the beings being very, very loving for a lot of different reasons, but, being very loving towards him. I think that a lot of people find that today that have experiences when they go on craft.
Yes, the people are really compassionate and loving people. They're really beautiful and extremely um, kind of emanating the feelings of love and compassion. So Michel Desmarquet actually didn't have any fear when he was with them. And the people on the planet Thiaoouba, they're highly advanced spiritually, but also materially, because they can actually live forever. They can regenerate their body cells and tissues. They can heal all the diseases you can think of. They can levitate. They can communicate through telepathy. They can manifest or materialize objects. They can actually perform all the miracles as performed by Christ, and as documented in the Bible. So there are highly advanced beings trying to guide us so that we can make the right choices in the future, because the future depends on our actions, our collective actions. So by reading this book, they're trying to assist and help us indirectly so that we can really have the knowledge to make the right decisions for our collective future.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. And there were so many, fascinations that I found in the book, from the way that they interacted with other species to the home planet that they were on, and to even to the housing. Everything seems to be so organic in nature. And I think that we find that with a lot of the advanced societies, that they are more in tandem with their environment than we are.
Yes, they use the laws of nature to the fullest extent. For example, they can combine oxygen and hydrogen atoms to make water. At the same time, they can split the water molecules to use hydrogen or oxygen for their own use. They use the laws of nature to neutralize gravity so that they can become weightless. They can move huge stones or huge objects by doing that. They can also use supersonic vibratory system to cut certain objects. They can produce foods that are kind of like powders so that calories can be released at different time intervals so that the eaters or the people don't need to eat every single day. They eat every 2 days or so. So they use the laws of the universe or laws of nature to the fullest extent.
And I thought it was very interesting how they referenced the food that they were using as the manna, as referred to in the Bible. Do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Yes, they were actually highly involved in our history in the past, as documented in the ancient scriptures in the Bible. For example, they were the ones responsible for parting the sea of Mo for Moses, not the Red Sea, but the Sea of Reeds, in which a lot of biblical scholars agree nowadays that is the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea, that Moses went through. And they actually were guiding the Hebrews and also Moses so that they can escape from the evil rules of the ancient pharaohs of Egypt. And they actually provided manas, which is a kind of like very compactfable food, a space food actually, that's very nutritious, made of grains to the Hebrews during their journey so that they wouldn't feel hungry during their journey. It only took them about 3.5 years to reach their destination, not 40 years. It's a mistake of translation in the Bible. And they were responsible for the destructions of the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, because the two cities were making a bad example of the people around them. For example, if you have a malignant tumor, and which is a form of cancer, you have to surgically remove it. So this is what they did to the two cities, and they were actually responsible for the birth of Jesus. What they did was that they implanted according to the book, an embryo into the uterus of Virgin Mary so that the young Jesus was born. And he was born just to show that someone important was going to appear in Jerusalem, and and that people paid attention to that event. But the young Jesus, according to the book, couldn't perform miracles, and he went to India and traveled through China and died in Japan. And this is why when you search on the internet, Shingo Village, Japan, the tomb of Jesus, you're going to see results of people or mainstream media documenting the tomb of Jesus in Japan. This is very strange because I was really surprised. How could Jesus go to Japan? But when I searched on the internet, it really had a lot of evidence on that. And Michel Desmarquet wrote a book in 1989, before the age of the internet, and he never traveled to Japan. And he wrote in such detail that matched the descriptions of the journalists nowadays. So I think he couldn't have made it up. But they also explained that Christ is a different entity that was meant to preach to the people at that time about the importance of spiritual development and life after death. And this is the reason Christ was crucified on the cross and then resurrected 3 days after. But for some reason, the Catholic Church Council meetings decided to remove the concept of reincarnation from the Bible. So this is why, even though the early Christians believed in reincarnation, most Christians nowadays don't believe it. And this is the reason why when Christ began preaching, when he saw his mother, he didn't call his mother mother, he called his mother woman. And so I think everything matches perfectly. They had to send someone who could perform miracles because people in the past were just like people nowadays. They're highly skeptical. Unless someone who could perform miracles, his teachings wouldn't have been believed by the people at that time. So this is the situation that happened.
Now, were there two or were there three Jesuses that the book refers to?
There were two. One was Jesus, who was born out of Virgin Mary, who traveled to India and died in Japan. And there was another entity that I would call Christ,
Mm.
who took on a body made by the ETs to resemble the appearance of Jesus. And then he didn't have to cross through what we would call the river of oblivion so that he could remember how to perform miracles. And then he performed the miracles and while preaching so that people believed what he preached.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I find all of it fascinating. Now, can you talk a little bit about the pyramids and the references that are made about them in the book, and even Atlantis and Lemuria?
Yes, a lot of people wonder like how was the Great Pyramid of Egypt was built? They were not built using slaves or using the river or any of the mechanisms. They were built actually using anti-gravitational technologies or and also ultrasonic gravity resistance to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner. The technologies actually came from an ancient civilization called Atlantis, and also came from another ancient civilization called Lemuria in the Pacific Ocean. And it was actually built 17,000 years ago by Thoth, a very wise and learned person from Atlantis. He built it because he believed that people back then in Egypt were ready to communicate to people on different planets. So the Great Pyramid is actually an energy center so that the users sat in the king's chamber and then meditated and then sent their thought forms from the top of the pyramid into space and to communicate to people on different planets. And also, they used the Great Pyramid to make rain using a metal plate made of alloys.
All very, very interesting. Now, there was something else that I recall reading about um, how they separated the his astral body from his physical body when they were running the decontamination over the body.
Yes,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
yes. So we are living on a planet which has a lot of different microorganisms, which are really different from the planet Thiaoouba. And in order to prevent any contamination or infections of such onto the people on Thiaoouba, they had to disinfect Michel Desmarquet before he landed on the planet Thiaoouba. So they used yellow light and blue light, which cleaned up the majority of the bacteria in his body. And then they used a different form of kind of radiation to do that. And then that's not 100% yet. And then they used another kind of pill to purify him. In order to save time, they decided for Michelle to observe what they were doing in the spaceship. So they give him another kind of medicine drug so that his astral body would leave his physical body so that he wouldn't waste time. So he would observe what they were doing in the spaceship while the other drug was cleansing his body, his physical body. That's a very interesting information because there are certain drugs that can separate the astral body and physical body of a person.
Right, right. And so I did find that very, very interesting, and how when the process was complete, it was almost like the astral body was called back into the physical body. And I'm going to assume that this is what happens to us at night when we astral travel, that that body very seamlessly will separate and it travels. And because of that silver cord, it's always able to come back into the physical body. There was something else that I wanted to ask you about, and I know I'm kind of skipping all over, but it's like, oh, I'm so excited about this. Um, there was an entire section that was dedicated to the population of the earth and the different races that came here. Can you talk about that for just a moment?
Yes, according to the ETs, they told Michel Desmarquet the entire history of the people on Earth. We all came from different planets originally. The blacks and the yellows came from a planet called Baccaratini about 1.35 million years ago. And later on, the ancestors of the Polynesians came and landed on a continent in the Pacific Ocean called Lemuria. And then the Caucasians came. They lived mostly on the continent of Atlantis. And the Jewish people, the Hebrews, came the latest. They came here about 12,000 years ago from a planet called Hebra, which is also highly evolved, actually two categories above us. And so they're really unique people with distinct cultures, and and the book tells the history of the Hebrew people and their encounters with the Normas in the Middle East. And there were some kind of confrontations in the very beginning, and I guess is a history that repeats itself. and it explains why there were so much persecutions to the Jewish people worldwide, even nowadays. It explains a lot of things that are really interesting and highly revealing as well.
Yeah, yeah. And they spoke about the statues on Easter Island. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, the statues on Easter Islands. I don't know if any of you have gone to Easter Island. I have, because I was very curious to see how the people on the island believed where they came from, and they believed in legends. But according to the book Thiaoouba Prophecy, Easter Island was part of the continent Lemuria. Um, Back 14,500 years ago, there was an earthquake that almost resulted in the entire continent being sunken into the ocean. And there were some parts that remained that included Easter Island and Hawaiian Islands and some of the islands in the Pacific Ocean. Uh, and the statues were meant to be transported to the capital of Lemuria. But before they were able to do so, the earthquake occurred and causing devastating casualties. Because they didn't really pass their knowledge of technologies such as anti-gravitational technologies to the people, to the rest of the world, like people in China or India. The knowledge was lost after the earthquake. And we nowadays can only see the remnants of the moas or the statues on Easter Islands.
Yeah, I just found that so fascinating. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions for you about this. So I do want to open it up in just a few more moments. But in your contact, how did you first initiate contact with Michelle?
Well, the book was so fascinating that I couldn't put the book down. I had a lot of interesting ideas about the content of the book, but in the postscript of the book, it says there are far more incredible things that the author knew but couldn't write in the book because he was not allowed to do so, because we were far from understanding it. I was very curious and frustrated. Actually, I decided to track him down. I searched on the internet and found that he was still alive. I was very happy about that, but I couldn't find his exact address. There were tourists who accidentally met him and took pictures of his bungalow. When I contacted the tourists, they refused to tell me his address. So what I did was that I downloaded the picture of his bungalow and I printed it out. And I flew to Vietnam and landed on the island where he was living at that time. And I showed that picture of his bungalow to the local taxi driver, and I asked the taxi driver to take me there. And then he found it, and I met him.
Uh, Well, you
Yes.
should have been a detective instead of an attorney.
Yes. I
You
know.
make I bet he was quite surprised when you showed up at his doorstep.
Yes, he was really surprised and also annoyed because he didn't like me to ask so many questions.
So
Yeah.
did you get the answers to the questions that you were looking for?
Not the first trip. The first trip, he just asked me to, no. He just asked me to follow up with a contract that he signed with a Chinese publisher,
Oh.
who paid him $2,000 but never got the book published. And then the publisher was afraid of the censorship in China, so they gave it up. So Michelle asked me to find a different publisher, in which I took a lot of pains and found one to to have the book published in China and another one to publish in Taiwan. And then he sent me an email inviting me to visit him for the second time. And then he told me what he couldn't write in the book.
Can you share that with us?
Yes, and then you have to be familiar with the New Testaments of the Bible in order
Yes.
to know what I'm going to be talking about. It has something to do with the descriptions of the uh, tribulations and what's going to happen in the future. So, but he told me not to reveal it to the public because Tao or the ET told him to tell me that. So I cannot reveal the specifics, but I gave as many clues as possible. I gave as many hints as possible in my article, which is posted on my website. It's titled "The Second Coming of Jesus Christ: What You Need to Do to Be Prepared."
Mm. Is there anything about that that you can share tonight with people to help them become prepared?
Yes, you can imagine. And if you know the Old Testament, you know Enoch was taken by gods. Michel Desmarquet believed that Enoch was actually taken by the Theoban, the same group of ETs that he went with. And so there's a book of Enoch because Enoch went away with gods. And a few decades later, Noah was told to build an ark. Noah was a great grandson of Enoch. So if you compare Enoch and Michel Desmarquet, Michel Desmarquet was taken by the ETs to their planet and was instructed to write a book. You can imagine what's going to happen a few decades later. But also the book says the future depends on our actions.
Mhm.
We control our future. So it would be good for people to have the knowledge, the spiritual and practical knowledge to be prepared. So this is why I've been trying to spread the messages to as many people as possible. And now I have the credential of being a lawyer or attorney. Hopefully more people will listen to me or take me more
Uh,
seriously. And so so in order to be prepared, you have to know that um, you have to have the knowledge to make the right choices. And also, you should look inside for answers when there are challenges in the future, in your life or otherwise. And also, collectively, we are more powerful than we can imagine. Only through nonviolent resistance, like what Gandhi did in India, can we turn over what we are heading towards. So, in order to go against the tyrannies in the world, the financiers or the uh, some people would say the shadow government, we have to act collectively and also to use nonviolence to resist what they're planning to do. So I think if you, and the best advice for you is to read this book because on any show, whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, the most I can review is only about 5 to 10% of the content of the book because the book contains so much information, practical and spiritual information and knowledge that is impossible for me to tell everything written in the book at all. It's unlike any different book that I ever read. It's very dense and contains a lot of interesting and practical advice to the readers. And I strongly suggest you to either read a book or listen to the book on Audible and to empower yourself with the knowledge so that you can make the right choices in the future.
yeah. It's very, you're right, it is very dense. It goes from one subject to the next without like a pause to be able to integrate what you've just read. And for me, it wasn't until I got to the end of the book and I'm like, whoa, what? Okay, so Jude is asking about the title of the book. I'll go ahead, Jude, and I'll put that in the chat for you. Yeah, and for anyone else, it's a Thiaoouba Prophecies.
Thiaoouba Prophecy is actually the reading this book has been the best investment I ever made in my entire life. Remember, I studied economics and I studied financial analysis, and I read all the books written by the great investment masters like uh, Warren Buffett, Jim Rogers, George Soros, Ray Dalio, and all the people in the investment industry. But reading this book has been the best investment ever made in my entire life because it gives you a lot of power and knowledge.
Mhm, mhm. Now, Michelle is no longer with us, correct?
Yes, he passed
Okay.
away in 2018.
And from my understanding, he actually was one of the Theubans himself. Was that correct?
Well, he was no, he actually he saw his past lives. The highest category of planet he was on was actually a category 7 planet. And
Okay. And
Cuba
they're
was
at
actually
9.
there
Right.
9. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so um I have one more question and then I'm going to open it up for people to ask questions. But from my understanding, the Theubans had such an influence on this planet that they were very, very instrumental and referred to multiple times throughout the biblical text. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and they were responsible for a lot of the miracles that are written about in the Bible. Was that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a distinction between God, the creator, and Thiaoouba or Jehovah, as mentioned in the Bible. So God is the creator of the universe. The creator of the source is a pure spirit. It actually created everything, the planets, the stars, animals, plants, and human beings. When the creator created everything or created human beings, it inserted a tiny portion of self to each of our astral bodies. So we are part of the creator, and the creator is part of us. So when we pray, we can actually communicate directly to the creator. Or when we meditate, we do the same thing. But Thiaoouba or Jehovah, as mentioned in the Bible, are actually the ETs who came from a category 9 planet, who came here to guide us, just like college professors or mentors, showing us the right way or the spiritual way of living so that we don't make terrible mistakes. And actually, they occasionally send warnings to us, one form or another. But most of the time, they help us indirectly by having someone like Michel Desmarquet to write a book, or having Enoch to write the book of Enoch. So it's a very interesting phenomenon, and I would like to receive more assistance from the Theobans, from the ETs. But at the same time, I also want to be more independent because this is the way we can learn more things. If the parents give the solutions to the answers to their children without having their children to be more independent thinkers, then the children wouldn't learn much. So this is why sometimes I really want to navigate the system because it's only through the struggling process we, as human beings on Earth, can survive for the long term.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, Rich, you have a question? Can you come off mute? Let's see if I can help you here. Can you click that little button? Oh, no. Okay, well, everything is enabled. You should be able to unclick. Okay, it looks like that you're off mute. No? Do you want to type your question in the chat? Okay.
I want to add one more thing is that when Michel Desmarquet saw his past lives, he saw that he had different roles in his past lives. Once he was a beggar, and a few times he was uh, like a coal miner in Germany. And most of his past lives were just like common, ordinary roles or having kind of ordinary lives. And then the ETs explained to him that the roles that people have in their past lives are just like different positions on a wheel. What goes up has to come down. So one would have to experience everything in order to learn the spiritual lessons that one needs to learn. So what goes up has to come down. So we don't need to envy the richest people on earth because they have their own spiritual lessons to learn, and we don't need to look down to the people who have who are not as privileged as us because they have their own lessons to learn as well.
Okay, beautiful. Now, Rich is asking if you know who Hamid Ashed is.
Hamished, I have not heard of this name.
Okay, so I think he's going to type something about that. Okay, so while Rich is getting this together, is there anyone else that has a question that they would like to ask of Samuel? You could go ahead and come off mute. Oh, Rich is asking how to access the settings. I don't know with your particular computer, sorry. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Cindy, you look like you've got a question.
Well, I was just thinking, about the book and the secret, and I was just wondering, is that secret in the book?
Um, there are a lot of secrets revealed in the book. Just so many secrets that which ones are you mostly interested?
Well, the one that you were referring to that you can't reveal on the Zoom.
Yeah, this is what they told Michel Desmarquet to tell me not to reveal it to anyone. And this is the article. Actually, I can send you the article in the chat so you can learn more about it.
Oh,
The
beautiful.
second coming of Christ.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Okay, I'll send the article. I'll shoot the article on the chat. I have to find it. It's actually buried in my website. Let me do that.
Beautiful.
Okay, got it.
That was my question.
Okay.
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you noticed, Sheila, because yeah,
You were sitting there like, I have a question.
I did. That was it.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay. Well, that is fantastic. So he's already put in the chat this particular article. So, hey, Kathy, how are you?
Sorry. Okay. My question would be, and I don't know if you can answer it. I haven't bought the book obviously yet, so I haven't read it. But and I was raised very Catholic, and so I have a lot of still unprogramming to do somewhere. But my question is, everyone, we were raised to believe, and it's, you say prayers like by rote that, Christ will come again, and people still think that Christ is coming back to earth. And I thought, and I still believe in a lot of other people that it's Christ consciousness and being like Christ taught us to be. Can you answer that? Or
without divulging the secret,
oh,
I
okay.
can tell you that the four Gospels of the New Testament
Mhm.
describe what's going to happen in the future. And depending on your age, I think you're probably likely to be able to see when that happens.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
guess, yeah.
It's actually going to be in my lifetime. That's for sure. That I know that.
Okay. Because that, we were always taught, the coming of Christ again, and and I've gone through a lot of my spiritual journey, for a long time. But and so I, even think myself still that it's, but I guess I'll have to read it, that it's, it's us that are supposed to be, that humanity is going to wake up and be more Christ-like instead of another, being coming. But
But
that's
let
how I
me
feel.
ask, the book referenced that Christ was the Thiaoouban, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, he remembered everything, all the knowledge to perform miracles, and he actually knew that he was going to be crucified on the cross, and he actually resurrected just to show people that there's life after death and there's reincarnation. His main mission was to preach about love and spirituality and life after death.
Right.
And yeah, and we should follow the teachings of Christ, that's for sure, but not a
Right.
specific religion.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
in the chat, he has
you.
put the two articles, and you can download those and you can read all about it, and that will give you the answer that you were referencing.
Oh, awesome.
Okay,
Okay. Thanks.
cool. Hi, Cindy, you have another question?
Well, not a question, but I just wanted to tell Samuel. I mean, I told the group, I think, a little bit, but because Kimberly mentioned it, I can say it. But I had an NDE, and Jesus talked to me during that NDE, and he did mention, that our thoughts collectively and individually would shape what happens in our destiny.
Exactly. So, but we have to act together. The more people we have to really act collectively, the more power we have, and the future is likely going to be a better future. So this is why I've been trying to spread the messages not only to the people in the US, but also people in other countries like China, Taiwan,
Yeah.
India. Yeah. So it has to be like a collective effort by people from all different countries, regardless of their race or ethnic or religion. It has to be a collective effort, international efforts, because what we are against is multinational and transnational, international. Yeah.
He actually showed me potential scenes that could happen based on consciousness going this way or consciousness going that way, what could potentially happen.
Yeah.
I actually saw pictures on a screen. If
Would you,
mankind goes this way or mankind goes that way.
when did that happen? The
It,
NDE?
it happened in January of 1982.
And normally people would have an idea which future has better chance likely to happen. Did you have any that kind of sense back in 1982? No, okay.
No, I mean, this was totally unprepared. I saw this enormous white light enter my room, sparkly white light, unlike electricity. And next thing I know, I'm experiencing Jesus, and he's talking to me and he's showing me things. And I mean, there's too much more I don't want to say in public, but yeah, I saw these things
Yes.
on a screen and of potential futures.
Yeah.
Yes, futures are probabilities, and we determine our path. And it's only through our collective consciousness that we can choose a better future. And actually, if people have near-death experiences, pay attention to those experiences, because a colleague of mine, a lawyer in Los Angeles, had his near-death experience, and he actually saw his past lives and also this lifetime what's going to happen in the future and until the moment of his death. So it's very revealing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to go into
Thank,
other people speak.
yeah. Thank you, Cindy. I also want to mention Rich said he was asking about Ishad because Ishad is an Israeli scientist who said that Trump knew about you and that Ishad said that Trump knew about the aliens, but that the Galactic Federation told him not to disclose, just like Michelle.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I'll take a look at it. Michel is actually a French Australian, and so his name is French. And also the book Thiaoouba Prophecy is also in audio form on Audible. So just for your information. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You were responsible for actually getting all of these books published, correct? Are you still carrying forth this mission?
Yes, it's been translated into Hindi language and will be published in India. And also we are signing contracts with some of the major publishers here and also elsewhere.
Well, I want to congratulate you because that's quite a feat that you've taken on yourself. And so it's an amazing book. And I am so happy that you did this so that you can make this information available for everyone. And I want to thank you for sharing the beautiful articles that you did. I have downloaded that to my computer, so I can't wait to read that tonight. I know I'll do that before I go to bed because I want to know the answer myself. And so I want to see if there's anyone else that has, whoops, we might have something else. Do you know about the Alterian book?
Yeah, I have heard of that. Um, when I read certain books, either the author claimed that the authors claim that they received channeled information, or from other sources, I always look for specific verifiable facts. So
Yes.
unless the facts are specific and verifiable, I really cannot vouch for the information in the book. So it has to be like, if you please read the book Thiaoouba Prophecy and to understand what I mean by that, because every single word or single fact in the book can be proven. That's the uniqueness about this book.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Do you have any final comments that you want to share with us? Is there anything that I did not touch upon?
I would say that if you really like the book, please spread the word and tell as many people as possible so that we can become more powerful as a collective. And also looking forward to receiving your comments after reading the book. And if you need any assistance from me in whatever role that you need, just let me know, because uh, I'm willing to help as much as I can. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Many people are thanking you in the chat as well, and thank you for the wonderful articles that you've shared. And I can tell you, I will definitely have you back because I want to keep sharing the word. You know, there's very few books that I read that I'm like, okay, I love this book. We got to tell people about it. And I really, really love this book. I mean, I think that, you know, from the way that Michel describes things and from the purity of heart that he comes from, it's almost like a childlike innocence, and an awe. You know, it's not something that's written from an egoic nature. It's just, this is what happened. I went there. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm going to share it with you. You know, so these types of events, you know, they're very different, they're very unique, and it can be very, very life-changing for many people. And so thank you for all the efforts that you've put into getting this book out, and I very much appreciate it personally too.
Thank you, Sheila.
Right. And people can order the book on Amazon as well, the Thiaoouba Prophecies.
Yes.
So, Samuel, thank you so much for being here again. I want to thank all of you for being here. Check out our new website. And if you haven't signed up for the event this weekend, it's only $44 for all 2 days. And we have 12 different speakers, lots and lots of activations. We would love to have you there. Check it out on the Conscious Awakening Network.org. So everyone, until we are back together again, namaste. Much love to everyone, and thank you so much for being here week after week, and we'll see you next time. All right.